3 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Good to have you on board. Lots to get to today. We'll be baseball heavy. Final regular season series of the year for Southeastern Conference schools, I guess for pretty much everybody. ACC has its final weekend. After the gauntlet that Clemson ran through last weekend in Winston-Salem, they get Boston College this weekend. So that might help the Tigers feel a little bit better. I don't know much about BC's baseball program.
I can't imagine that it's that good, in all honesty.
Yeah. So the Gamecocks, of course, are in Knoxville. You don't want to repeat of last weekend, right? Duh. I just don't envision that. I don't ever really envision Carolina getting swept. They did. I think what we've talked about a bunch this week with all kinds of people is you ran into a buzzsaw and just didn't have it. And how precipitously Carolina has kind of fallen is of concern. Can they get it back this weekend? Ty Good, if you have not yet heard, Ty Good will start tonight. You could argue that he has been South Carolina's best pitcher this season. And last weekend, or I guess last Thursday, a week ago today, we were told, the plan was that they'd see how far Kimball could get him, and then they would turn to Ty at some point. I think they were hoping that they could get 3 innings-ish out of Roman and go from there. Instead, you got a third of an inning and 4 runs given up in the top of the first, and it altered everything. And yet you still had an opportunity on Saturday to try to salvage one. You didn't. And then it really got away from you. You didn't have a midweek game to kind of exercise the demons. So now you go to Knoxville, the number 1 ranked team in the country, number 5 RPI team this week, or at least today. I haven't looked today, honestly.
Yeah, today they're number 6. They're creeping outside the top 5.
So, but they've been hovering, and it changes every day with whoever does what. Listen, just don't get swept. And I hate I told you earlier off air.
Seems defeatist.
Yeah, I hate saying that. But at this point, that's just kind of where I am. Like a lot of people, I don't have a fear of South Carolina missing the NCAA baseball tournament. I just don't. Look, I just don't. I don't know what else to say. I know David Cloninger
shouldn't.
I know David Cloninger had a piece in the Post and Courier, and he talked to a bunch of people that feel the same way. You and I have talked to people this week that feel that way. We'll have Aaron Fitt tomorrow. Aaron and the folks at D1 still have Carolina as a 2 seed relative to Teddy Cahill and his guys at Baseball America having them as a 3. It's all projections. But South Carolina's metrics are strong. It's just that you wanted to host. That's the difference. That's the frustration. That's the anger.
That was the goal that you came into the month with.
You wanted to host, and you were in position to host. You controlled your own fate in terms of being able to host. And now you don't really. I mean, you kind of do, but it's going to take something monumental and something that seems not impossible, just improbable. Impossible would be like, hey, Carolina, we need you to go beat the Braves of last year. That borders on the impossible for a 3-game weekend series on the road. It's just improbable that South Carolina takes the series from Tennessee this weekend. But the good news, the saving grace, South Carolina scores runs. South Carolina hits home runs. Lindsey Nelson Stadium gives up home runs. It's a bandbox. Tennessee is very good there, and they may outslug you. But this isn't something where you're like, we got no chance against this pitching staff, or we don't hit well enough. We don't score enough runs. I'm most anxious, I think, if that's the right word, to see, I guess, and I'll ask Stuart Lake when he joins us in a little bit, to see the body language, Elijah.
Yep.
What's the response? Mark talked about talking to the guys right after that very ugly final couple of innings in the Game 3 loss to Georgia.
The 10-run final 2 innings against Georgia.
10 unanswered runs, right? And it was basically, everybody still on board? And we've seen a few comments from players now that they understood that Mark was pretty hacked off. Fans can be mad at Mark, and I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But like any coach in any sport, tell me what they did on the field, what they did on the court, right? I mean, there's buttons that Mark can push or any head coach can push. But at some point, players have to go play too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what do they want? I mean, I can throw anger and frustration and confusion and other things into one big bag of the team. So I'm anxious to see, again, if that's the right word, how these guys respond.
That's going to be a big thing to look for is that body language right there and trying to figure out this Tennessee puzzle. Because I was trying to do it today in preparation for the show of how can this South Carolina team, given their strengths and weaknesses, even steal a game at Lindsey Nelson. And you look at Tennessee's pitching, and there's just not a lot that they do wrong. Like they don't give up a ton of runs. They don't strike out a ton of batters, but they don't walk anybody. They rarely commit any errors in the field. But you just got to be able to put the ball in play and see exactly what happens. And when you're pitching, go into the game understanding you're going to give up runs.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're Ty Good, go into this game expecting to give up a few, but minimizing the damage as much as possible. This team's going to hit. That is a certainty. They are going to hit the ball. And if they get good contact on it in that park where it's only 325 in the corners, there's a good chance if they pull it and make decent contact, it's going out. But you get to hit too. That's the thing. You got to be able to lean on your bats as well because I think they're going to be able to put the ball in play. When you don't strike out a lot of guys and you don't walk a ton of guys, that means the ball is what? Oftentimes in play.
Yeah. Well, and the late, great Tommy Moody, just put it in play. Make them do something. Yeah, don't strike out. Yeah, those kind of things. I mean, make them work. And you and I talked earlier in the week about whether or not Carolina could find little places here and there to be more aggressive at the plate. Derek Scott joined us on Tuesday and didn't necessarily push back on that, but said, well, look, it's a little late now, perhaps, to alter your approach to a large degree. So, again, we'll ask Stewart, who obviously is more than just an analyst. He's a coach. Where could those places exist? Or, again, does he agree with Derek? Like, well, you already are amongst the nation's leaders in walks. So you've got some things that you do well in terms of a teaching perspective on how to force pitchers to throw a little bit more. But like I said, from a general sense, I'd love to see, we talked with Mark when Ethan Petrie had a bad weekend against Arkansas, and they talked about charting the pitches that he saw. The point I'm making here is they chart the pitches for everybody has a chart. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing. What's the percentage of Tennessee pitching's first strike rate? First pitch strikes. What does that look like? Where could you take advantage of that? At that point, does it become a chess match where Tony might say, well, all right, guys, listen, out of the zone. Do what Arkansas did to them. Make them chase. I'm just those little things because Carolina can score runs.
Yep.
And I don't mean this in the most obvious way, but you're going to have to not just obviously you have to outscore them to win the game. I do know that.
It works that way in a few sports.
I do know that. You have to score more than the other team to win. Can you outslug them? Can you out-aggressive them? Because Tennessee is an aggressive offensive team. And this has the makings of, you mentioned it, I think, with Ty Good even in pitching. Kind of an old-school American League game. Where a good outing, I used to laugh as a National League lifer, like a good outing in the American League back in the day was like, well, he went 5 innings and only gave up 4 runs. And I'm like, that sucks.
You're not impressed by that.
Yeah, but in the American League, it's like, yeah, that's pretty good. So that's a solid outing. That today might be seen as an even better than solid outing if you do that. If Ty can go 5 and give up 4.
If I'm a South Carolina fan and Ty Good gives you 5 whole innings and gives up less than 5 runs, you're thrilled. Because that team can easily score, Tennessee can easily score 11, 12, 13 in that park.
Yeah.
That's what they do habitually. If you can get past the 5th inning, you've only used 1 arm, and you're in the game and say, it's tied at 4 or 5, you got to feel great about that.
I would agree. I would agree. So Stuart Lake will join us coming up at 3:30. He's in Knoxville, obviously. He and Derek ready for the call. Vince Ferrara is part of the radio crew for Vols baseball. He will join us at 4:15. So we'll get a couple of radio guys' perspective on what we're looking at this weekend. Tennessee is playing now to secure top 8 status. Like Elijah said, now today they're 6th in the RPI. I think Tennessee's done enough. By the way, in the D1 projections for the top 8 national seeds, 5 SEC schools, 3 ACC schools. That's it. No Oregon State, no Oklahoma State. None of the California directionals, as I like to say, are in the mix anymore. Not for top 8. You got Arkansas, A&M, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, and you got Clemson, North Carolina, Wake Forest. Those are the ones. Speaking of North Carolina, we'll get into this a little bit later on, but to set up what we're doing on the show today, a whole bunch of mixed messages coming out of Chapel Hill in the last couple of days. The ACC spring meetings were taking place on Amelia Island, Florida. AD Bubba Cunningham had to leave early because one trustee on Monday started to get really loud and spoke with WRAL television up there, their NBC affiliate, and said, I'm paraphrasing, but this trustee basically said, I'm advocating to get out of the Atlantic Coast Conference because it's miserable. And unless they change their ways, we got to do something. And people were like, oh, so finally, if you will, there was, I don't want to say a shot across the bow, just a shot fired anywhere from Chapel Hill. Because we've been talking about that, like Florida State, and then to some lesser degree, Clemson doing a lot of the heavy lifting against the conference. But we've all been saying, the folks in Chapel Hill are just kind of waiting to see what happens. Well, then another trustee spoke, and then the chair of the board spoke, and then the chancellor spoke, or at least the interim. And Bubba had to go back early. And today they had a closed session. Somebody up there, by the way, filed a temporary restraining order to prevent the North Carolina Board of Trustees from going into closed session. But I guess it either was not granted or was filed too late because they did go into closed session and talk about athletics. I don't know what they do behind closed doors. Is that when they eat like really fancy food?
That's what I was about to suggest. That's when the brisket comes out.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think they do brisket in Chapel Hill, man. More like beef Wellington, beef tartare.
They getting that fancy?
Yeah. Beef tenderloin. Yeah. Wagyu beef, maybe. Yeah. American Wagyu beef, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's somewhere in North Carolina where they're raising that.
Gotta be.
Yeah. No, I'm not brisket. Not brisket. That's a little too. That's a little too
pedestrian.
I'm just playing with all you Chapel Hill people. I love you.
I'm not.
But the point is, the noise is now being heard from Chapel Hill, and that's what a lot of people have been waiting for. But again, with all due respect to Clemson and Florida State, North Carolina's say in this is going to have a lot of meaning and a lot of impact. So we'll get into some of what they're talking about up that way for you. NFL schedule is out, to the surprise of no one save David Tepper. Your Carolina Panthers are the only team in the National Football League without a true nationally televised game.
Feel bad for the intern that was in the same room as David Tepper when that happened. You catch the brunt end of that anger.
I mean,
you might catch a drink to the face.
Yeah. That's what I heard somebody joking this morning about that. Like, shouldn't they put him on just to see what happens with Tepper? It's like, just wait for Twitter and TikTok and Instagram to do that.
Oh, it finds the internet pretty easy. Yeah.
We'll get into the D1 baseball projections for you, and Stuart Lake coming up from Lindsey Nelson Stadium ahead of Carolina, Tennessee. A busy Thursday postgame show continues. Welcome back into the post-game show on this Thursday.
We love the post-game show.
We need more of this.
What?
Just like
Berlin
Eurobeat. I don't know what this is. Is that what this is? I don't know what you call this. House?
Yeah. Yeah,
It doesn't seem quite thumpy enough for house.
Not bassy.
Yeah. Either that or just that we have no bass here. Like, you know, I will say the prize piece of equipment in my sound system at home is a subwoofer.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what the reverse is. Like, you know how dogs and animals can hear, like, super-duper high-pitched things?
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know what the low opposite of that is and who can, like, hear or feel it, but that's what my subwoofer will do.
Well, if you can feel it, not hear it, then that's you.
It's amazing, dude. A sound system without a subwoofer isn't really a sound system. That's what I've now come to believe.
You gotta be able to feel the music a little bit.
Yes. But like the little earbuds I have, there's zero bass in these.
In that song too, there wasn't much bass. I didn't feel it in my headphones. Normally, I would feel it in these headphones. These are pretty fancy ones.
Again, house, dance, Eurobeat. I don't know, but a little more of that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki definitely jammed to that before coming to the NBA.
There you go.
Definitely.
Before we get to the quick look at the D1 baseball projections and then talk to Stuart Lake, David hit us on Twitter. Thanks for reminding all the Panther fans out there that our team can't even get a primetime spot. It's rough being a Panther fan. Elijah was kind enough to say, was that 1 million? I 1 million%.
There's a lot of zeros.
Do not envy you, my friend. And then David replied back, thank you for the empathy, I guess.
Yeah, the thank you should come with a question mark because I'm not going to stop piling on.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have it in me.
Listen, David, I'm not really picking on the Panther fans. I'm picking on David Tepper and the Panthers.
Yes.
Again, my dear Aunt Judy Bratton, Charlotte, North Carolina, born and raised in Gaffney, went to the University of South Carolina, has been in Charlotte for her adult career at the bank, is a rabid Panther fan. And I've said this before on air, but I'll remind people again. Aunt Judy will call me. She's a big sports fan. Big sports fan. Aunt Judy will call me and be like, and she's got that wonderful Gaffney accent that I just love, so I won't try to do it. She's like, what's wrong with my Panthers? And I was like, Aunt Judy, how much time you got?
Do you have hours?
You know, and she knows. She just...
Or you give her the short version and just say David Tepper.
I have.
Yeah, that's the summarized version. Spark notes.
I have. And again, the one thing about David Tepper is that, you know, he's the one entity you aren't getting rid of.
Because he kind of owns the team.
So, yeah, now I'm doing shoulder shrug guy.
Unless you can catch him in a scandal that is so bad. It took a lot for Dan Snyder to have that
he threw
accumulate.
a drink on a fan in an opposing ballpark and didn't even get a slap on the wrist.
Oh, I'm telling you, the NFL scale here is Dan Snyder. Like you're on 1 to Dan Snyder, and you're not like throwing a drink doesn't even like equivalent to like a 4 on that scale. No. You got to throw a drink every week for like 4 or 5 years before they start considering it.
And then they'll be like, "Dude, why are you wasting so much like liquor?"
He's like, "Do you know?" Then he responds with, "Do you know how much I'm worth?" And then they realize he's not going to stop.
I own the distillery would be his response.
Yeah. I bought it so I could continue to throw more drinks at fans.
So, David, we're not picking on you or
David Montz.
Again,
we're not picking on David Montz. We are picking on David.
Yeah. Not our listener David who hit us on the Twitter.
Yes.
Or Chris Clark is a big Panther fan. I know. Again, my Aunt Judy, who I adore.
I have some friends that are Panthers fans, so I know they exist.
Yeah,
Kale in the studio.
Yeah, Kale Wilson's hanging out with us, and he's
a Panther fan.
You know,
he exists. I can prove they exist.
I would
in front of me.
I would urge something beyond patience, and I don't know what that is because Cam Newton ain't walking through that door.
No, Jake Delhomme ain't walking through that door.
And it's not about Bryce either. Again, quarterbacks need. One thing I've learned: quarterbacks need people to catch the balls they throw.
Mm-hmm. One thing
they need people to block for them up front, so they have time to throw to people. They occasionally need people to turn around and hand the ball to that can run forward for positive gain.
But that would require the guys blocking to also do their job too. So that you can kill two birds with one stone by fixing one of those.
So again, I'm doing shoulders.
We threw out the names of the great Panther quarterbacks of past, which equates to two of them. And Cam Newton maybe could survive being on this team right now because he was built like a Mack truck.
If you give me 26-year-old Cam Newton on this team, I'll give you 7 wins.
Yeah. Very possible. Yeah. Very possible. Poor Jake Delhomme would not survive. Too much of a statue.
But yeah, the Panthers do.
He would die.
We were debating this. The Panthers do technically have a standalone game, but it's when they play the Giants in Germany, and it's going to kick off at like 9:30 in the morning on the NFL Network. I think it's on NFL Network. So
yeah, those games are usually NFL Network.
I think that counts. It's just not going to be a national broadcast, like in a regular NFL national broadcast slot, which would mean Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football.
Sure as hell ain't prime time if that's what you're getting
But
at.
apparently every other team will be featured on at least one of those things. The Cardinals will be on one of those. The Browns will be on one of those. The Jets are going to be on national television 6 times. The Jets. 6 times, man. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is really good, but 6?
Here's
the
my thing.
Chiefs only have 5.
What tells us Aaron Rodgers is still really good?
I don't know.
He played 3 snaps last year.
Yeah, if he gets to 4 snaps, that's
And
progress.
quite frankly, wasn't that good in Green Bay his last year. And we can all cry about how his receivers weren't very good, but Jordan Love takes that team to the playoffs the next season. Don't want to hear it. We don't know Aaron Rodgers is good.
I don't know.
And the NFL VP did really, I don't know, it didn't release a statement, but was asked, about the Jets on prime time. And he's like, well, they owe us one. And that, Aaron Rodgers is the appeal. And I was like, how much of an appeal is he really in 2024?
I don't know.
I need him to prove that he's still pretty good because we haven't seen any ample evidence in 2 years.
Agreed. But he's got the name, so there's that.
And it gets him on prime time.
I will say this. The Chiefs are scheduled for 5, but remember, NBC has the flex ability for a couple of games late in the season.
They do.
I got a hunch that the Chiefs appear on one of those flex opportunities.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
They kind of have some name appeal. And Taylor Swift.
A little bit. Oh, that's right. Taylor Swift does play for the Chiefs.
She does.
Yeah.
She's a starting tight end.
That's right.
She is so famous, she took Travis's job.
You know what? I'll leave it there. All right, we'll come back. By the way, Gamecocks projected by D1 Baseball to go to the Clemson Regional. I think we already told you all that. So real quick, Kentucky is the number 1 seed. They're featured against number 16, Oklahoma State. Number 2, Tennessee against number 15, Virginia. Number 3, Arkansas against number 14, Mississippi State. Number 4, A&M against number 13, Oregon State. Number 5, North Carolina against number 12, East Carolina. Number 6, Clemson. That's where Carolina, Charleston, and Wright State are projected against number 11, Indiana State. And number 7, Georgia against number 10, Oklahoma. What's the last one? Oh, number 8, Wake Forest against number 9, Florida State. Those are all the national seed numbers as projected by D1 yesterday afternoon. We'll get you the full report on that coming up in a bit. But on the other side of the break, Coach Stuart Lake will join us. He and Derek ready to call the Gamecocks against the Volunteers this weekend. How does Stuart analyze what happened last weekend and how the Gamecocks can fix a few things? We'll discuss it with Coach when the postgame show continues. Homeowners, you love where you live, love the neighborhood, love the house, love the commute to work and school, but also realize that after a few years, it's time for an upgrade. Well, instead of moving and looking for something else, then work with your home's equity to fix it up. And there's no better place to get that done than with Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. You see, they're local, they're not-for-profit. That means they're not paying the shareholders out, right? And that translates to lower fees for you, lower rates for you. Plus, you'll pay lower closing costs and application fees than you would with the big banks. And when you unlock your home's equity, you can easily access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period to assist with your goals, your needs. As the kids get a little older, things change. Apply online today, palmettocitizens.org, or stop in and see the great folks at any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are customers. We love it. Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. Talking Carolina baseball as the Gamecocks are in Knoxville for the final regular season series against Tennessee Volunteers. Carolina hoping against hope that they can work their way back into a hosting opportunity. That's a tall order. As we said earlier, it's not impossible. It feels improbable. To discuss that and more, we welcome back onto the program Coach Stuart Lake. He and Derek Scott will be on the call tonight from Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Coach, always appreciate you. Let's take you back to last weekend before we discuss what's going on. How, from your perspective, which I will call somewhat unique in terms of how well you know the program and how well you know the sport, how frustrating was it for you to see that? And then how maybe, Stuart, unsurprising was it for you to see it, considering how well Georgia had been playing?
Yeah, frustrating, and the frustrating part was just for the guys and the coaches, because I've been calling those buzzsaw kind of weekends that Georgia had, and it's frustrating from an offensive standpoint when you feel like you're kind of answering the bell, and then just on the pitching side defensively, you just couldn't stop them. So that part frustrating for me to kind of sit there and see, because I know how that feels, and, you know, not really surprised at what Georgia could do offensively. I think the power caught me a little off guard. I knew the numbers indicated it, but they just seemed to really have more power than we did last week in our own ballpark, which is very rare in the history of Gamecock baseball to say that. But it's what sets us up for this week, Jay. Man, I'm sitting here looking at these numbers, and everywhere in the SEC, I'm seeing Tennessee. So for what we thought Georgia was offensively last week, on paper, Tennessee seems to be even a little bit more.
Yeah, that's the worst part, is that it doesn't get any easier in terms of the team you're playing and the ballpark you're playing at, where it's like, 325 in the corners. It certainly isn't going to get a little easier to keep the ball in the yard. But that kind of leads me to this, Stuart. When you're managing the arms right now, right? Like the best outing you got from anybody that was a pitcher last weekend was Garrett Gainey giving you five and a third and being able to be incredibly productive and manufacture a ton of outs. I think it's clear him and Ty are your best pitchers right now. When it comes to a series like this, where you're fighting for position to get back to close to hosting or working in your NCAA tournament position, or at least even just getting some momentum to go into Hoover with, how do you kind of manage those two arms, considering you've kind of played both guys in different roles this year?
Well, I think they kind of showed us in a sense of going TBA, for Friday, Saturday. I'm not really sure in my mind would Garrett Gainey be available today, because, that was his longest outing of the year, and it just happened on Saturday. So kind of in my mind, if I were on Tennessee side setting it up, I'd be thinking, is he really going to be available tonight? I haven't asked, so I'm taking from TBA that everyone is available. But also, Elijah, it's going to be weather out here. And as I keep looking at it, I'm kind of curious to see what they may decide to do, because tomorrow after about 5 p.m. out here doesn't look good. And looking at the radar, it doesn't look good until Sunday afternoon here. So it'll be curious to me on how they handle this now, SEC-wise. If one of your final 3 games determines the championship, we could play here on a Sunday. So this could turn into a really odd weekend in that regard.
Well, I did see there's weather in Baton Rouge, and they're moving the start time up today. So I don't know if that's a possibility tomorrow. I suppose Coach Vitello and Coach Kingston can try to decide on that. Stuart Lake is with us from Knoxville, Carolina, and Tennessee game 1. A little earlier start time than typical, 6:30. First pitch, airtime is 6:15 across the network. Stuart, Elijah and I were talking about this earlier in the week, and we spoke with Derek, and I want your take, especially as a baseball coach and analyst on this. Are there ways for South Carolina offensively to maybe be just a little bit more aggressive in looking at the charts, seeing what Tennessee does in terms of first pitch strikes, things like that, moving up in the box, just ways for this offense to take on a little bit bigger role? Or is it, for lack of a better way to ask, just too late in the season to really alter your approach that much?
Well, it would be late to change kind of who you are. You've developed it. We're a team that I thought we played really well offensively last weekend. But we're a team that strikes out, and that's a part that I do know you can address, and I know Monty and King have addressed more of trying to, if we're aggressive early in the counts, it limits you getting into those counts. The one that always gets me, and I've been open about it, I hate strikeouts looking. There is just something about them that it's almost like the dad in me. I can't let the kid walk by on a strikeout looking without saying something. I'll let you walk by on a strikeout swinging. I struck out as much as anybody playing this game because I know how hard it is. I didn't strike out looking a lot. So that was always my kind of thing with hitters is we're going to do. So those type things can be addressed. I like how at times we play small ball with this lineup, the way it's going. I mean, you think about Blake Jackson's a 3-hole hitter, had the old bunt double last week, but he's been a guy you very seldom see a guy in the middle of the order as involved in small ball as he's been. So I do feel the offense has changed a little bit from what we were seeing early in the year. it's just really the big thing going to be this weekend. Can you just minimize some of these Tennessee innings? Because they're just coming at you offensively all weekend. That's going to be the key.
And then with the batting order, too, because, I mean, like, I'm all about, like you, minimization here, because Tennessee's going to put the ball in play. They're going to hit home runs. They're just going to hit the ball, and that's indisputable. And we've seen two different, I guess, approaches to the lineup this year. One with Will Tippett in it, where the left side of your infield is it's a hard to get hits against them, right? If you're hitting the ball to third and short with Will and Talmadge on those two positions. But then there's kind of the sacrificing a little bit of defense for offense approach, which has given them more runs this year, but a couple more errors on the corners. What approach do you think the Gamecocks take, or what approach, I guess, would you kind of look at when you're facing a team like Tennessee where you're going to have to be able to generate a ton of runs as well?
Well, I don't really think they'd had an option until we saw Will Tippett come back in the game last weekend. And once he did come back in, heck, if y'all remember, he made 2 or 3 plays at shortstop that you'd have had no idea he had a knee issue he was dealing with, and he got the breaking ball home run. So I really feel pretty good with Will at third. I've been a guy, and I know what they've been trying to do. I really like Gavin Costas at first, which probably means, obviously, we're never taking Ethan out of the lineup. Does he go back to right? Do you try to stay with Costas at third? This Tennessee team's not going to small ball you. Even just simple things. Georgia had been hit by about 105 pitches. Tennessee's only been hit by 55. So this isn't a team that's going to try to crowd the plate, try to really small ball you to death. So you might be able to get away with the, quote, offensive lineup that we've tried to do. But I'm a big Will Tippett fan at short. I hope he's feeling good. From what we saw last weekend, it looked like he could be a big factor in this stretch run.
Stuart, last thing for you. Put your coach hat on. You're the head coach right now. What's the pep talk today? And setting the tone for the weekend? What's the number one thing that must be stressed from your perspective?
I'll be honest with y'all, I'd be super excited. Most of the time when you get to this point in the year, you don't control your own fate. You're watching the scoreboard. You're trying to see what this team did or what that team did. What I would tell my team today, we control everything from here on out. We control this weekend. If we're able to win this series, we're right back in the host conversation. We're able to win a game here. We feel a lot better going to Hoover next week and our chances in a regional. We don't need anybody else to do anything except us. And I hope that's the message, because that's what I'm going to tell them when I get to walk to the dugout tonight. I'm excited. South Carolina's always played well here at Tennessee. No different in my mind that we can't do it this weekend.
Great stuff as always, sir. You and Derek have a great call. We'll be listening, and we'll talk to you here real soon. Appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
You bet. That is Coach Stuart Lake, Stuart_Lake to follow on Twitter if you don't already. I think he's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I come back around to. I'm kind of glad he said it that way, even if he didn't say it the same thing I did. Again, be upset with the head coach. I get what people's frustration level is. I understand it. We can agree and disagree on the levels of that frustration.
Last weekend sucked. Universally accepted.
But we all get that. But the players are the ones that swing the bat, throw the ball, catch the ball, and at some point they've got to put something on their own shoulders.
Yep. The
coach can't go out there and do it for you. So be excited about it. Coaches always stress what the opportunity, right? I feel like that's the number one favorite word of coaches, followed by adversity, right? Opportunity, adversity.
Resilience, distant third.
Yeah, okay, you faced the adversity last week, but you still have the opportunity this week. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?
Got the number one team in the country.
How fun is that, right? We talk about that all the time. How cool is it to get you? Very few people, only one team a week gets to play the number one team in the country.
That's how math works.
This week, guess who it is? What are you going to do about it? That's part of it. Be excited for what you got. We'll talk more baseball with Vince Ferrara coming up in a bit. Lots to get to. I'll give you an update from Valhalla. Not the Norse heaven, but the golf course in Louisville when the postgame show continues. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Thanks to Coach Stuart Lake for joining us. We'll get more perspective from a member of the Tennessee radio crew, Vince Ferrara of our sister station, the Sports Animal in Knoxville. He's the equivalent of Bill Gunner up there. But
That's right.
Probably without bothering people as much as Gunner does.
Yeah, personality-wise, Vince and Gunner differ a little bit.
Yeah. Vince seems very nice, easy to get along with.
Very laid back.
Yeah. And Gunner just talks about his boat all the time.
I was going to say, I don't think Vince has a boat, though. We might have to ask, but I'm not 100% positive if Vince has a boat.
I don't know.
But if he does, then we do have some real parallels.
Yeah, that's true. We'll ask
our
him.
morning shows.
We should ask him. And before anybody, you know what? Actually, no, I want you to go ahead and think that I hate Gunner. Go ahead. It's fine.
I can spread a good rumor now.
It's perfectly fine.
I can spread a good rumor. Do not give me any motivation to spread a good rumor.
I got to go back and do it. We haven't done our TV show in a couple of weeks. We're doing that. We're doing one next week, so I have to go next Tuesday morning and pretend that I like Gunner again.
Just put on your face. Put on your I like Gunner face.
It's TV. You just fake it. Right? Isn't that what TV is? That's what I was told.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Just smile at the camera.
Acting makes up a good chunk of TV.
Acting. Before we get to Keith, who has a few baseball thoughts, let me remind you, speaking of baseball, to go to 1075thegame.com, register for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. Boy, this would be a nice weekend for one.
No kidding.
Every game, $25 is added to the pot. If a Carolina batter hits a Grand Slam, you could win that cash right now, according to the math that Terry Ford has done, which seems reliable.
I'm sure he used a calculator.
The pot is at
correctly? I don't know.
$1,275. That's a lot of money.
That's a whole lot of money.
For one Grand Slam?
And you know what? I've been saying going into each of the last 3 or 4 series that this could be the series it happens. And it hasn't happened. So you know what I want to say now? It's not going to happen.
Trying to reverse jinx it.
That's right. It will not happen this weekend, so you better go ahead and enter in so you can win.
Log on to
Whenever it doesn't happen.
1075thegame.com to register, and we thank the great folks at Palmetto Citizens. Keith is up next on the Love Chevy phone line. Hey, Keith.
Hey, guys. I enjoy listening to your show. Hadn't called in months, but you know, and I know coaching 11 and 12-year-old boys is different than college, but at the end of the day, and I'm not in defense of Kingston by no stretch, but you coach them up, and at the end of the day, they got to play. And, you know, we've been spoiled. I go back 2009, 10, 11, and even prior to that. I mean, we were a baseball dynasty, and I understand the landscape has changed today with NIL, and the fact that just look around the SEC, how each school has stepped up with their baseball program. But and this is no reflection on the young men that are out there, but there's a wide discrepancy between the talent in the mid to late 2005 to 2011 versus what we're dealing with now. And a coach can only do so much. They got to play, and then at the end, talent does matter. And I don't think quite where we need to be on that end. But that's just, you know, that's an opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair, and you know, not just NIL. This was beginning to happen. Thanks as always, Keith, for the phone call, buddy. You know, we've said this before. When you look back to Carolina's second run through the College World Series, 10, 11, 12, when you played for a championship in each of those years, you beat Florida for a title. You advanced past Arkansas to get to a series. Vandy was involved. You know, back in 2004, Georgia was at the World Series with you. But the point I'm making is the conference, I think when Carolina and Florida played each other for the title, I think a lot of schools around the conference went, you know what? We better start doing that. And you begin to put plans in place. And listen, the run Carolina went on, nobody does that. I mean, go back. You know, did Coach Burtman's teams play for 3 straight titles? Like, I don't have it in front of me. I'm not saying it's never been done. You know, I'm sure Southern Cal back in the day played for a bunch of titles. You know, when UCLA was doing their basketball thing under Wooden, Southern Cal was doing their basketball thing or their baseball thing in Omaha. So, yeah, the conference has stepped it up, and the talent levels have been spread a little more thinly. Dave Van Horn has done an excellent job of cultivating a terrific pitching culture in Fayetteville, and they've got the edge on others. If the kid, just as an example, the kid from Central Connecticut that ended up going to Kentucky that pitched here last year in the tournament,
ace?
Carolina wanted him real bad, man. A lot of schools wanted him real bad. He chose Kentucky. It's made a big difference for them. Tony Vitello, as a Dave Van Horn guy, it's working, and yes, you do more good players. Always, Keith, more good players. Hour 2 coming up.
Got a lot of big basketball and hockey playoff action tonight, and you can get in on all of this with our friends over at Prize Picks. It's America's #1 fantasy sports app, and it's my favorite fantasy sports app. And look, a big one tonight on the hardwood. I'm going to go less on Anthony Edwards' points. I know he's been having an awesome playoff run, but I think the Nuggets have figured something out. They're not going to let him take the requisite amount of shots to score more than 30. And I like Jamal Murray to score over 20 tonight. They're going to need him to. I think he does. Play along, and you know what? If you download the app today and use promo code 1075GAME, you can get a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code 1075GAME for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks will also offer Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account and a whole lot more. Injury insurance, you name it. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks.
4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Hour number 2 coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, along with Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Cale Wilson's hanging out with us this afternoon here in the studio. Thanks to Stuart Lake for joining us in the last half hour. Vince Ferrara, part of the radio play-by-play team for Vols baseball, will be joining us coming up in just a few minutes. Looking forward to that. Guest heavy on tomorrow's program, Langston Moore, who's become now as elusive as the great Kev Roche. You know, for years and years we talked about how Kev was elusive, and we likened him to Bigfoot. You get those glimpses from the woods, and it's all blurry.
And when you do get him in those glimpses in the woods, you have to there's some real scholastic debate as to whether or not that footage is real.
Yeah, was that Kev? But I know Kev exists because I see his work on Sunday Night Baseball every week. So he's real. But we haven't talked to Langston in a while. Langston's been busy. Langston's daughter's finishing up high school, and she's going to be a D1 athlete like her dad.
Runs in the family.
Yeah. And he's been doing the school tour, which is winding down. But Langston will be with us tomorrow, so we're very excited about that. Coach Bill McDonald will be with us tomorrow afternoon to talk a little PGA. I'll give you an update in a second. And tomorrow, 4:30-ish, Aaron Fitt, D1 Baseball, will be with us. So we got a lot to do tomorrow.
I can't wait to ask Aaron about the projection of putting South Carolina in Clemson's regional, because I really want this to come to fruition.
I know you do, and I won't mind it, but like I told you.
So bad.
Like I told you, we're going to ask him what degree of snark was used in that projection.
Or what percentage of antagonism was used in the making of your tournament fielding.
Yeah. Because, again, Teddy Cahill and the Baseball America folk have Carolina traveling all the way to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
We should do a flash poll.
Okay.
Which projection do you like more?
We'll do that as we speak.
3 seed in Santa Barbara, 2 seed in Clemson.
I like that. We're putting it up right now.
Good.
Putting it on the poll.
All right. Let me get you some updates from the PGA Championship, round 1 at Valhalla.
That sounds very fancy.
You know,
it does not sound like a place that would exist in Louisville, Kentucky.
It was funny, like on one of the tee boxes. It's a beautiful golf course, right? But on one of the tee boxes, I feel like I'm playing anywhere in like just regular old South Carolina, because they had massive power lines running down the fairway. I was like,
it sounds Kentucky enough.
Are exclusive
honestly.
golf clubs supposed to have, that level of giant power line systems running right down the fairway?
How else are we powering up that nice clubhouse?
Don't you bury the cables at that point?
Good.
I mean, they got the money. This is Louisville, Kentucky, man. They got money everywhere.
All the money's going to Pat Kelsey's contract instead.
KFC money. You got Ford Motor Company money. You got UPS money.
We got to pay the players now, Jay.
Don't they have riverboat gambling up there?
It's going to U of L.
They got that horse race. I forget what it's called, but they got that big horse race. I think they just had it a couple weeks ago.
I heard a horse won it.
Yep. True story. Look at you, man. You're good at this.
One day a person's going to win.
No.
I feel it. I can feel it,
dude.
I can feel it.
Not even Usain Bolt can run that fast for that long.
One day.
Michael Johnson could have.
I'm going to dream big.
Michael Johnson could have. Those gold shoes in 96.
Running on that terrain would be hard, though.
Yeah. Horses are fast.
They are.
I guess that's why they call things horsepower. See what I did there? I figured that out. Anyway.
We're learning a lot of stuff today.
Xander Schauffele set a course record at Valhalla today with a 9-under 62. Also tied his own low round in a major at 62. Did it in the U.S. Open a couple of years ago, but he's yet to win a major. Might this be Xander's time? Tony Finau and Sahith Theegala finished at 6 under par today. Rory McIlroy is continuing his hot play. He finished at 5 under. Let's see, a couple other big names for you. Brooks Koepka, Martin Keimer. Brooks is at -4. He's done. Keimer is done at -3. Cam Smith is done at -3. So is Victor Hovland, Max Homa, Kurt Kitayama, Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson's at -3. He had an eagle.
That's your boy.
Yeah. He had an eagle off the fairway late in the round. I forget which hole, 17, 18, somewhere around there. Yeah, Bryson is he's my second favorite. Yeah, and I don't know where my first favorite is. Let me see. I'll just scroll down till I see. The longer I scroll, the better it is when I don't see his name. I'm now into the pluses. Still don't see his name. Still don't see his name. Still don't see his name. Is he playing? He is Patrick Reed.
Your other boy, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's people like Jay. Who are you talking about? Don't be so coy. Yeah, for those that don't know, yours truly is not a Patrick Reed fan. Tiger Woods is at +1. Colin Morikawa is at +1, but he just started. Tiger's finished for the day. Shane Lowry at +1. He's a big name. So there you go. And Columbia's own Dustin Johnson,
Dutch Fork legend,
+2. So that could be. And tomorrow we'll know what the cut is. But +2 when the leader is at 9 under. That's perilously close. So DJ might need a big day tomorrow. Trying to find a couple other big names for you. Jason Day's at -1. He's about halfway through. Hideki Matsuyama finished at -1. So there you go. Long way to go, though. Still a lot of guys on the golf course, round 1. And again, Coach McDonald will be with us tomorrow to give us a little bit more of his perspective. I was this in a good way, kind of hoping Bill couldn't join us. Gamecocks did not advance out of the Baton Rouge Regional in the NCAA tournament, so they're back home. The unexpected injury bug bit his team. Again, most of you know they had
worse luck.
They had a bus accident, and Carolina's number 1 had a fractured elbow, and it just never. The chain reaction of events in the second half of the season. They fought. I mean, they made the tournament, and I think he's made the tournament, and this is 17 or 18 years, and I think he's made it all but 2. So they're always there. They've advanced a lot. I know Kaylin Anderson's women's team advanced. They'll be out in San Diego, out that way, this weekend. But unfortunately, Coach McDonald's team didn't quite get there, so we will get him in here tomorrow, along with Langston and Aaron Fitt. All right, you got we'll get the Twitter poll going for you in just a second. Again, Carolina and Vandy. I just looked down at my Vandy at Kentucky notes.
They're in the right state.
Carolina
nailed
at
that one.
Tennessee. You're keeping an eye on Vandy at Kentucky as well. Kentucky, the number 1 team in the RPI. Vandy has fallen out of the top 25. And Carolina fans really hoping that Vandy can get something done this weekend at UK to vault the Commodores back into the top 25, thus giving South Carolina 3 more quad 1 wins. Again, you need some help here and there, but you still can do a lot of this on your own. This being work your way. Give the committee something to think about, because right now all that committee is thinking is, man, you got your butt kicked against Georgia. And, again, if it happens again, you're in real trouble. But Vandy can provide a little bit of help. Honestly, it's funny, Elijah, and I know you'll have this a little bit later on. After we talk to Vince, we'll get into some of this. But, like, the who to pull for,
It's an interesting week for that.
Yeah. Again, you're pulling for Vandy. Who's second on the list? I would think Vandy,
You want to go conference or out of conference?
Well, I guess in conference first.
In conference, because here's the thing, too. You mentioned the big O word in the last hour of opportunity. Coaches love opportunity. They are suckers for opportunity.
Yep.
And so am I. So you're looking at pretty much being a 7 seed in the SEC tournament. If you're able to steal one against Tennessee, I think you're still, depending on what happens with Vanderbilt and with Alabama, more than likely, I think you'll end up being the 7. So you would like a more advantageous number 10, right?
Okay.
And so right now, the 10 seed, it's either going to be Florida or Ole Miss. Ole Miss is significantly higher in the RPI than Florida is. They have a probably better overall resume than Florida does. So to get the opportunity to beat a team that would be top 30 in the RPI, because they're both going to be quad 1 wins,
right,
but it would weigh better on your overall metrics in terms of your weighted RPI wins, because one thing the committee looks at is what's the average ranking of the team in the RPI that you beat,
right,
and your average loss. One thing that goes well for South Carolina, the average ranking of the teams that beat them in the RPI is 26.
Okay.
That's the best in the country.
Okay.
So you'd like that other number to go down pretty well too. So you'd like to see Ole Miss in that spot. You'd like to see them take care of LSU to secure that and avoid being the 11th. So you'd like to see Ole Miss beat LSU, and I think that's also very winnable. Florida's playing against Georgia this weekend. I don't foresee Florida beating Georgia 2 of 3. And Georgia continuing this hot streak makes last weekend look a little better.
And Florida is just a game over 500?
A game, yeah. More than likely, and I would put money on them not being over 500 when the weekend ended.
So you think they'll get swept?
Yes.
Man, that'd be brutal.
I don't think they're very good. Outside of Caglione, their pitching is atrocious.
Yeah.
Like cartoonishly bad. We can complain about South Carolina's bullpen here all we want. It is nothing. I mean, it looks like we're trotting out Hoffman and Gagne in the early 2000s compared to what Florida trots out there every now and then. It's tough. It's tough out there.
Bama's at Auburn this weekend, Missouri at Mississippi State. So Bama and State kind of draw a nice hand here in terms of securing what, because Bama's RPI is good.
It is, yeah, despite being below 500 in league play.
Yeah,
good RPI.
I think Bama is one of those schools that's giving the committee something to think about when it comes to hosting, and they better go to Plainsman Park and win that series, right?
Yep.
That's not a must win. They have a you better win.
I have that on the outside looking in. You would like I would say for Auburn to take care of Alabama, because you're going to be competing for spots in the NCAA tournament with Alabama.
And again, for the purposes of general conversation, without getting into the improbable parts, someone's going to win the Arkansas at Texas A&M series. Mm-hmm. Does that loser have anything to be concerned about?
Falling out of the top 4.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Yeah.
You want to have a secured spot in that top 4 going into Hoover, and that's really what they're playing for.
Yeah.
Because they're both going to host, and they're both going to be top 8. Regardless what happens this weekend in Hoover.
Biggest overall series. I look at the other 6. Ole Miss at LSU, I think, might be the biggest series because of the importance of winning it to both schools.
The desperation. Yeah. This is the ultimate anxiety series.
Ole Miss did themselves a favor last weekend.
They certainly
beat
did.
A&M.
Yep.
2-1. LSU probably... Again, these are both kind of bubble teams. LSU a little stronger overall than Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Not as strong in conference play.
Right.
Ole Miss has been able to rack up better quality SEC wins than LSU has.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest series.
Yeah.
I think the winner of that one feels really good, and the other one feels like they go next week and have to do something.
Well, that's the thing. If neither of them do much in Hoover, that's one. If it gets down to one of them, I don't think both are making it in. The committee could very well be looking at what happens in this series to determine exactly who gets to play in this tournament, who doesn't.
Come back on the other side of the break. Stay with Carolina at Tennessee. Vince Ferrara, part of the radio broadcast crew for Vols baseball, will join us from Lindsey Nelson Stadium. What does this Tennessee team do well? Almost everything. We'll get into that and more with Vince as the postgame show continues.
This weekend, the South Carolina baseball team has a very big opportunity to achieve a goal, and that is to try to win a series against the number 1 team in the country. I also have a lot of goals, too, and I was also be able to achieve a lot of them with a little help from my friends, specifically my friends over at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Look, was starting to tip the scales in a way where I didn't want to a few months ago, and Paul Grant and Shaylin over at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss have done numbers for me to be able to improve my overall number and get it to where I wanted to be. I wanted to lose 15 pounds going into this process. I lost 20, and it's because of their coaching. It's because of this program that helps you not just achieve a healthier weight, but healthier lifestyle changes, healthier habits. And it's easy to do with people like Columbia Secret for weight loss. Give them a call, 803-824-4210 for your free consultation, or go to ColumbiaSecretForWeightLoss.com. I did. It helped me. It can help you too. Results may vary.
Oh, well done, Elijah Campbell. Welcome back into the postgame show.
This was a tradition unlike any other back in Nashville when we had our next guest on. We always played Smoky Mountain Rain, so I had to bring this back.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad Vince feels at home. Vince Ferrara joining us on the guest line now from Knoxville. He is part of the crew at our sister station, The Sports Animal, along with our buddy Josh Ward and many other fine folks. See Vince a lot at media days and other locales, and he'll be in the booth tonight calling the Gamecocks at the Volunteers. Appreciate you. Did you know Elijah was going to do that, Vince?
Well, not too far in advance, but I did before he brought me in, so he kind of gave me the heads up. Yeah, Elijah always got plenty of props from the host in Nashville whenever he pulled that off. So yeah, well done.
We're very glad to have him here.
It's a jam.
Yeah,
it's such a jam.
Speaking of very glad to have him, before we kind of get into the specifics of the weekend, Tony Vitello's status in Knoxville now. is what compared to, I don't know, 3 years ago?
Well, rock star. One of the most popular coaches on campus for sure. There's no doubt. I mean, so many things that he does, whether it's within games or reloading teams after they lose stars and move on. Just the status, the consistency of the program. It is so different, and every year, so many things are accomplished that hadn't been done in a long time. For him to have this kind of consistency with this in this league that keeps getting better with the portal, it's phenomenal. And fans love the fact that other fans in the league are tweaked by Tennessee. Now, it's not, as you guys probably know, it's not like it was 2 years ago when they sort of burst on the scene and they were public enemy number one to everybody around the league. They were getting a lot of attention, but they don't really have those kind of personalities anymore. So they're a little bit, I guess, easier to digest for the rest of the country. But still, tennis fans incredibly appreciative of what Tony Vitello has done, no doubt.
I asked this in a good way to the point you just made, because I remember the Notre Dame series. Everybody does. Would you say that it's a bit of maturity as well for the entire program?
Well, in terms of the way, guys would garner reaction and, just being looked at as hot dogs and things like that by everybody else, and the celebrations outside the dugout. And some of that is, college baseball, maybe because of them, has kind of cracked down on some of that. So you don't see it as much. And then also they just don't have those kind of personalities. So more so than maturity, I think it's just the players that they have on the roster. I mean, Drew Gilbert, that was his deal. Jordan Beck, that's kind of who those guys were. But that wasn't really deep down Tony Vitello. I mean, he would tell us that all the time, whether it's privately or publicly. He's old school. So, but guys put in the work, and part of what they feel like is a positive about Tennessee in recruiting is they let you be yourself, but you got to earn that. It's not just, hey, here's what we want you to do. We want you to make the other team mad and garner attention and things like that. Just kind of played out that way because those guys earned it, and that's that freedom of being who you are is definitely a positive. There's, I think Billy Amick might have said that, transfer from Clemson might have said that he felt right at home at Tennessee. Not that he has that kind of personality, but because he's like, man, they just will let you be yourself and just kind of blend in.
Yeah.
And what they are is the best hitting lineup in the country. There's some just cartoonish stats here, Vince, when you look at the overall numbers of 6 players hitting over 300, 5 with OPS over 1,100, 5 players with at least 15 home runs. Oh, and Christian Moore and Blake Berg have been trading off as the school's all-time home run leader pretty much for most of the conference season. What makes this group maybe a little more different than that prolific group that burst on the scene a couple of years ago, just from a hitting standpoint, too, because they seem to be pretty equivalent?
Well, you definitely said a key word, and that is different. The home runs per game total is not that far off. If they make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, they have a chance to catch that record-setting team from a couple of years ago. So the home runs are definitely there. But, a couple of ways they're different. One is that they've played a lot closer games, and they've won series in rubber matches a lot, winning 2 out of 3. And they were just dominating teams, not only sweeping teams, but blowing them out. So when it came to that Notre Dame series, Jay, that you referenced, then it was a little bit like, whoa, what's going on here? We're supposed to be, routing teams. This team has been knocked down and gotten right back up, sometimes even within ball games. Came from behind Vandy, both of the games they won in that series. They've won some low-scoring games against Missouri, and other teams. So they've won in different ways. They've won closer games, and they've been knocked and got back up. So I think that's a positive. Another one, this team makes more contact than that team, where they had a lot more strikeouts than this year's team. Another difference is that their pitching staff doesn't have the numbers. I mean, they had stars in their rotation. So this team does not. I mean, they have a really good game 2 starter in Drew Beam, but really their other starters come out of the bullpen to finish ball games or take them closer to the finish line. So they don't wow you in terms of their starting statistics or pitching stats compared to a couple of years ago. And then the last thing is they do a much better job against teams that run. They have only given up, I want to say, 30 stolen bases or low 30s. And they gave up 87 each of the last 2 years. So teams aren't running on them, and they're doing a better job defensively in that area. So those are a few, but definitely a very different team, even though still the offensive numbers are good.
Vince Ferrara with us. He'll be on the call tonight on the Vols Radio Network as Tennessee hosts South Carolina, game 1 of 3 from Lindsey Nelson Stadium. You obviously know South Carolina comes limping into this one a little bit after being humbled at home by Georgia last weekend, but still played a lot of really good baseball. What concerns you most, and where might any potential chinks in the armor be for the Volunteers where South Carolina could attempt, I say, to get back on track this weekend?
Well, I think early starts could give South Carolina some confidence. Tennessee's done a good job of rallying, but because their starters on game 1 and game 3, it's usually about one time through the lineup. Like they get one time through the lineup with their starters, and 2 obviously from time to time would be great. Then they have more options. So the quicker South Carolina can get to Tennessee's second pitcher, which is usually a long relief guy, whether it's A.J. Causey or Nate Snead, who's their big power arm that can get to 101, then that really then starts the ball rolling. And maybe you get that second pitcher out of the ball game early, and maybe if you stay in there, you have a late lead, you can get some things, get it to the finish line. So getting to the pen as early as possible would be one way with good starts. Another thing is, I mentioned the run game is the thing to have success in the run game, and we put balls in play with small ball. At times, some teams have done that. I think Missouri did that a little bit. And, Tennessee's defensive numbers are solid, but, at times they'll throw the ball away or have a misplay somewhere. So that would be another thing is maybe try to just make contact and put the ball in play and force Tennessee to defend. So those would be a couple of ways. South Carolina is capable, and you guys know they have a Knoxville kid from the powerhouse Farragut High School and Parker Nolan transfer from Andy, and plenty of guys that have solid offensive numbers. So the wind is another factor. You just never know which way if it's not going to blow at all. It's going to go right to left, as it typically does, or blow in or blow out. That a lot of times ends up being a factor for teams that put the ball in the air that are fly ball hitters.
I got less than a minute for you, but you just mentioned some of the weather conditions, and Stuart Lake joined us a minute ago. Carolina's color analyst said that maybe weather was a factor. What are you hearing?
Yeah, the potential for storms. Maybe, it's kind of just overcast right now, but it's in this area, things pop up, and there's a chance of rain and storms. I think tomorrow might be the biggest day potentially for that. But man, there's been, how it goes. There's plenty of times where it's in the forecast and it doesn't happen, and kind of down in a valley here between mountains. So sometimes the weather changes quickly, or it's not as bad here as it might be in some outside surrounding areas. And the big thing is a turf. As long as there's not storms with lightning, they can play through a lot. I mean, it has to be a real consistent downpour for them to not play. So that part of it makes it promising.
Vince, appreciate the time. Have a great call this weekend. We'll talk to you down the line, man. See you, and we'll see you this summer in Dallas too, for sure, at Media Days.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Good stuff. Vince Sports, the way to follow on Twitter. He's Vince Ferrara, sports animal in Knoxville. NFL schedule talk coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start off with one in Richland County over near Spring Valley High School. An accident has occurred on Sparkleberry Lane at Grace's Way. That's causing some decent traffic backup, as well as one on I-20 eastbound after the Clemson Road exit 80. We also have 2 accidents in Lexington County to get to you, one on Rawl Road at Smith Pond Road, and lastly one on Amex Ferry Road at US 76. That's over near Chapin Road.
NFL schedule is out. We'll get into a little bit of that for you. Run down the Panthers' full schedule, some of the big primetime games. Again, the surprise announcement. Surprise announcement? The New York Jets on primetime television, 6 games.
Yuck. Disgusts me.
Over under Jet wins in those 6 games, 1.5. What do you got?
Ooh, I'll go over because I think they win a couple. They'll win 2, enough to keep America interested.
Jets at Niners on Monday Night Football to open Monday Night Football's season.
Oh, wow. Aaron Rodgers-led Jets team leading off the season on Monday Night Football. Nothing can go wrong.
Bum, bum, bum.
Nothing can go wrong at all. Absolutely nothing.
Bills will be at Jets on Monday Night Football in October. Jets will be hosting New England on Thursday Night Football. Jets will host the Texans on Thursday Night Football. And then on Sunday Night Football, Jets will be at the Steelers in Week 7.
Hey, there's your winnable game.
For the Jets?
For the Jets?
No, hell no. And the Colts.
I said winnable, not that they would win.
The
but it's
Colts
winnable.
will be at the Jets in Week 11 on Sunday Night Football. So they get
There's
2.
your winnable.
They
Yeah.
get 2 each. If, I don't know, just if former PGA golfer, or maybe he's still current, Aaron Badley were the quarterback, would they have 6 games?
No. They would have as many as the Carolina Panthers.
The Carolina Panthers, the only NFL team without a game on Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. Even the Cardinals get one.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. They're the only ones. Yeah, that's
wait, do the Cardinals?
prime timeless.
I saw that earlier, but I don't see the Cardinals, Elijah.
As in they don't, which is surprising because there is some appeal to the Cardinals, maybe early in the season.
I don't see the Arizona Cardinals on this. I heard earlier this morning on one of the national talking head programs, and
Kale is excited because misery loves company, and the Panthers would not be alone. Nah, they play the Chargers. They got the Chargers on a Monday night, October 21st, ESPN.
Okay. On Monday Night Football?
It's on ESPN.
Okay.
That's what I assume. It's Monday night.
All right. There. Okay. Well, there you go.
Could be
then.
a different one.
All right.
I don't know off the top of my head what October 21st falls on.
No, that's a Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they got a Monday night football game.
Okay.
In the big toaster.
Oh, I see that now. It's a doubleheader Monday Night Football night. That's
Because
why
it's a 9 o'clock kickoff.
That's
so it's
why
not
I didn't
necessarily prime time, but it's a Monday night.
That's why I didn't see the Cardinals. I realized October 21st, Week 7, Monday Night Football is a doubleheader Monday Night Football night. So I was only seeing the Ravens-Buccaneers game. My apologies. Okay.
How do you feel about Monday night doubleheaders?
I don't like them.
Not the biggest fan.
I can't stay up that late, man. I don't need a Monday night 10 p.m. NFL kickoff.
See, here's the thing. I can stay up that late to watch it. I don't want to.
Yeah, well,
and if it's Chargers Cardinals,
if the Broncos are playing at 10 on a Monday night,
and I don't mind it to start the year. I've always kind of liked the opener to start. A double header on the first Monday night.
My Broncos do have a Monday night game on December 2nd against Cleveland.
Oh, that's a lot of orange.
It is.
Maybe too much.
Well, Denver will probably be wearing blue that night. So that's. I try not to. People ask like I don't wear orange, and but I am a Bronco fan.
Which is why you just have to wear the blue home.
I have 2 Bronco jerseys that were gifted to me. They're both John Elway jerseys. There's a white John Elway jersey and a blue John Elway jersey. They both have orange trim. But
does one still have the salsa stain on it?
A little bit.
Dang.
I don't like to tell that story though.
That's
the only time. Okay, my wife bought me a full-on replica from Mitchell and Ness John Elway Super Bowl jersey, the white one, and I had worn it once. I wear soccer jerseys a lot because they're like T-shirts. Mm-hmm. I don't wear football jerseys because football jerseys are cut to be worn with shoulder pads, and they just look like they're way too big. But I decided to wear the John Elway Mitchell and Ness jersey to a friend's Super Bowl party when the Seahawks played the Broncos in the Super Bowl, 10 years ago, whatever it was?
Yeah.
And by the first quarter, the game was bleeping over.
By the first play.
And I try to say first quarter. It makes me feel better, right?
It helps you remember the night a little bit.
And at some point along the way, on a white jersey that's really nice, I got salsa on it. And I didn't realize it until I got home. I was like, oh, at some point I got salsa on this thing.
Ooh, so there was no time to be able to.
Yeah, and there's still a remnant.
That's unfortunate.
It's like a battle wound at that point.
Just tell people it's blood.
And so then when the Broncos played the Panthers, I was invited to a Super Bowl. Sometimes we have a Super Bowl party, sometimes we don't. I was invited. And at that point, I said, I'm not going to your Super Bowl party. Thank you for inviting me. So it was basically the Phillipses, and I was in a Denver Broncos long-sleeve T-shirt.
There you go.
And it was all good.
And it finally happened.
Yeah.
You got
Except for the fact that when I was tweeting about how happy I was about the Broncos, a lot of people around here were not happy with me. And I was like, I've been a Bronco fan since like 1976, man.
Can't change it.
Like, I can't help it. I even had one dude, I called him Brad the sports fascist. This guy was like hammering me on Twitter about how I should support the, quote, local team. And again, I'm explaining.
That local, buddy.
And I was like, dude, I've been a Bronco. I mean, like the Broncos are, that's part of my sports just being.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, little kid. I've been a Broncos fan, and this guy was just hammering me on how he didn't believe me, and he thought I was just doing it on purpose. The first thing he said was, "You're just doing this on purpose to make people mad." I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, "Ask anybody that knows me who my favorite NFL team is and how long they've known me and who it is." I was like, and A or B, I'm not even that guy. Like, I'm not here to stir the pot.
You're not an antagonist.
No, I'm like the opposite, dude. I'm a lover, not a fighter. And so then he's like, well, you're doing it wrong, and you should, the local team is who you should. And I was like, why?
If you're outside of an hour from the way the team plays, they're not that local.
Yeah, well, I mean,
hate to bust the bubble there.
But I mean, there's people like me. That's the thing about the Panthers. The Panthers became an NFL team when I was 25 years old. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're well into your fandom of whomever at that point, right? Yep. I mean, I got buddies that are Steeler fans, Washington fans, Cowboys. My wife's a Cowboys fan. Yeah, I mean, Dolphin fans. Like in Columbia, growing up, the closest team was the Falcons. And I mean, come on.
No one's choosing that. No one should. I'll say this. No one should ever choose that.
People ask me that too. Like, how come you think so many people are Braves fans and not Falcon fans? Like, well, A, the Braves were always on television, and B, the Braves are good.
Competent. I wouldn't even just say good. Competent. They were at least good enough to attract your attention and your eyeballs.
The Braves had a 5 or 6 year run late 80s when it was not so good, but they had been good prior, at least good enough, right? When Murph was winning MVPs and stuff, but nobody likes the Falcons. Even Falcon fans don't really like the Falcons.
They hate what it does to them.
Tyler.
I feel bad for Tyler. He was born into
sometimes,
it.
yeah. And I'm like, Tyler, you don't really like the Falcons.
Sometimes it's like the Jets. Our friend Kalen over at B106 sent me a text asking me to be nice to the Jets. And A, no. B, I'm sorry you were born into it. I'm very sorry you were born into it.
Well,
I have the utmost empathy for Jets fans that were born into it because you cannot help it.
Yeah. I have a friend who's from Spartanburg who actually works in this building and is a Jet fan. And I want to, sometimes I'm like, Luke, what's your damage, man? Why? And
How long have you seen your therapist?
It's like, what?
It has to be a good
And he's
one.
like my age. So I'm like, you aren't a Jet fan because of like Richard Todd.
Joe Namath.
And you're not old enough to remember Joe Namath. Luke's like a year older than me. I was like, you don't know Joe Namath. Joe Namath was playing for the Rams when you were aware of the NFL.
But he chose it. That's on him.
Yeah. But
at that point, it's on
you know
you.
what? I have not thought of Brad the Sports Fascist, and that was not his Twitter handle. He was just Brad something. But I nicknamed him the next day Brad the Sports Fascist.
It's an earned nickname.
Few more thoughts on the NFL schedule when the postgame show returns. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. Cale Wilson hanging out with us here in studio this afternoon. Headlines of the day coming up top of the 5. Revisit a little bit of our conversation with Coach Stuart Lake coming up next hour as well. And we'll run down the full weekend of baseball action in the SEC. And once again, Elijah will be not telling Gamecock fans who to pull for. We don't do that.
I give you my strongest suggestion.
Yeah. It's the BBP. No, the BE, the E. Well, it is the B. No, it's the EBPI again. Just a different kind of E.
Different B. Yeah.
EBBP.
Or maybe the Elijah Fandom Baseball Power Index.
EFPI. No, because that's football. We got to find something else.
EFBPI. There you go.
There you go. Charles wants to weigh in on what we were just talking about, I guess, with like being a fan and whatnot. Hey, Charles.
Hey, I hope y'all are doing well today. First off, where I lead in, I say, wish I was in Las Vegas today for the first night at the Sphere for Forever Dead, but maybe I can. I need a miracle at some point during their residency. Maybe I can find some way to get out there.
You'll get.
Anyways,
get out there, dude. You'll get one. Somebody will hook you up.
Thank you, sir. So on the whole fandom and locality aspect, a couple things. When the Panthers had their inaugural season, I was still like 11 or 12 or something like that. So I was, still eager for an NFL team close to me kind of thing. I was still early into my NFL fandom. So I adopted the Panthers, for better or worse, over the years. That being said, though, what always frustrates me is people that poo-poo on the Panthers. That was a nice little alliteration.
There you go.
Intentional.
I like it.
There you go.
They poo-poo on the Panthers of, oh, you mean the North Carolina Panthers. Oh, you mean the Charlotte Panthers. Simultaneously, those same people are huge Atlanta Braves fans.
Right.
I'm like, well, the Atlanta Braves bring nothing to the state of South Carolina, yet you're a Braves fan. So what problem do you have with me or, trying to downplay somebody being a fan of the Carolina Panthers that, yes, located in Charlotte, but they do bring more. They do represent the Carolinas as a whole more so than the Atlanta Braves represent South Carolina. And at the same time, nobody says, oh, you're not a fan of the New England Patriots, you're a fan of the Boston Patriots.
Right.
Like, get over yourself. People that just always do this to others, just let people like what they like without trying to take a poo-poo all over.
Yeah, no, that's good, and good luck getting out to the Sphere. I had a bunch of people ask me if I went to see Fish, and sadly, Charles, no, I did not. But yeah, and yeah, Bobby and Mayer and all them, they'll be there for a while. They got a few shows, so you should be okay with that. It's funny, let me say, Charles, I may be, from a couple of instances, not like a long-term thing, I may have actually been one of those guys that at times have said, like, the Charlotte Panthers. But I don't say it in a way that he thinks. I say it because I don't know that the Panthers have ever really done enough to generate tons of interest. They have fans. The Braves are different, and I get what he's saying there, because they are the Atlanta Braves. Heck, I even had somebody say, they have these City Connect jerseys now. They're called City Connect jerseys. And I saw some Braves fans like, I can't believe that it says for the A on that. And I'm like, dude, it's called the City Connect jersey.
Yes, they're the city-oriented.
It's specific, and they're not the Georgia Braves or the Southern Braves, but they are the South's team. There's no doubt about that. The difference, of course, too, Charles, is that the Falcons have a team, the Saints have a team. There's now 3 NFL teams in Florida. You got a team in Nashville. The team in Washington has been popular. The team in Dallas has been popular. So the South has always been more covered by the NFL in some way. But yeah, no, he's not wrong about that. When people say, "Oh, the North Carolina" or "Oh, the Charlotte Panthers," again, I think it's just because it feels like that's the only place where there's any genuine daily interest. Mm-hmm. Whereas with the Braves, again, they are the South's team. And again, to be just observational, the Braves are good. If the Panthers, the Panthers haven't been to the playoffs now in 7 seasons, 8 seasons, whatever it is. But even then, they had never had back-to-back winning seasons. And it's just hard to generate tons of interest in a franchise that doesn't have any level of sustained success. And in a city like Charlotte or the place like the Carolinas where North Carolina sport, meaning Tar Heel sports or Wolfpack sports.
College athletics.
Are very popular in Charlotte still. Carolina and Clemson, very popular still. And he made a point that I was making earlier. If you were like not yet in high school when the Panthers became a team, then chances are pretty good that you have, like Charles just said, you've been a Panther fan the entire time, whether it's casual or diehard. If you're older than that, chances are pretty good that you pulled for someone else somewhere. I mean, again, I got I have Raider friends, Cowboy friends, Redskins friends, Dolphins friends, Steelers friends. You know what I'm saying?
All the above. Yeah.
Giants. I mean, like, who was good at the time? So, but I don't do the Charlotte Panther thing anymore because that also makes, again, my dear Aunt Judy upset, even though she loves.
And Aunt Judy doesn't deserve that.
No, man. I don't. If I cross Aunt Judy, I've done a bad thing. Hour 3 coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to you that are causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start off with some good news, and that is that the accident on I-20 eastbound just after the Clemson Road exit 80, has been cleared, so traffic's moving pretty smoothly through that area. Here in the county, we also have an accident on I-20 westbound that's just past the Fairfield Road exit 70. That's causing some mild delay. And in Lexington County, we have two, one closer to Chapin on Amex Ferry Road at US 76 and Chapin Road. And lastly, we have one on Raw Road at Smith Pond Road.
All you got to do is touch your ear like this, your earpiece like this, and breaking news happens. Welcome aboard the final hour of the postgame show. I actually don't have anything that's breaking right this second. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Cale Wilson's hanging out with us this afternoon, too. It is time for our integrated media headlines of the day. We will start with South Carolina baseball, and a huge opportunity for the Gamecocks this weekend. They close out the regular season at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. 6:30 first pitch tonight, 6:15 airtime. And the only pitcher announced by Coach Kingston and Coach Matt Williams for the Gamecocks is Ty Good. Ty will start tonight. Senior righty is 5-1 with a 3.21, 47 2/3, 63 strikeouts to just 21 walks. He will go up against senior lefty Chris Stamos, or Stamos.
Stamos, I believe.
Stamos.
No relation to John. I looked yesterday and found nothing to indicate that he would be related to Full House's John Stamos.
He is 3-0 with a 3.33 and 24 1/3, 27 strikeouts, 12 walks. Earlier today, about an hour ago, Vince Ferrara was with us at the Sports Animal in Knoxville. He is also part of the Tennessee Volunteer Baseball crew, and told us that pitchers 1 and 3, so Chris Stamos tonight, Xander Sechrist on Saturday, are guys that Coach Vitello basically says, get me through the order once, and I'm probably going to the pen. And that makes sense. Again, Stamos, 24 1/3, and then Sechrist on Saturday, Elijah, 43 1/3, but Drew Beam tomorrow night, 74 1/3. So a guy who clearly pitches a lot more and a lot longer.
Definitely the ace of that rotation.
Yeah. We got some comments from Stuart Lake of the Gamecock crew, who joined Elijah and me a little while ago, so we'll get you that in just a bit. But, looking at this one tonight, you and I kind of said it. Can Ty Good give you 5 innings and 5 or fewer runs? Because if so, and I know that sounds like, wait, you're talking about having a dude go out there and have a 9 ERA in this game? Well, yeah.
Against this team, yeah.
Yeah. And looking at it, by the way, let me go back to Tennessee's conference stats, okay? Conference stats. Tennessee pitching a 4.68 ERA. Opponents, conference games, 8.14. I mean, a big, big difference. Tennessee also hits 296 in conference play to their opponents 274. Tennessee has hit 65 home runs to their opponents 43, again, in conference play. Slugging percentage for the Vols, 575 to 461. OBP, 382 to 339. So, and again, Tennessee at home in conference games is 10-2.
They're like 31-3 overall.
Yeah. And Christian Moore, by the way, is hitting in conference games 413, 17 homers, 38 runs driven in, an 884 slugging percentage, a 441 OBP, so an OPS of over 1,300. And that's real good.
All while running away with the school's all-time home run record.
Yeah.
Whose record was previously held by a teammate.
Who was it?
That would be one Blake Burke.
Burke, okay, yeah, because Burke has just 6 in conference play. Overall, Burke has 15.
He just has 15 overall because Christian Moore's got 24?
24 overall. Billy Amick has 18. Kavaris Tears has 15. And Dylan Dreiling has 16. They have 5 dudes in double figures, and Dean Curley has 9. So
He's getting close.
Yeah, you hope not, right? You hope not against South Carolina. 6:15 airtime, 6:30 first pitch tonight and tomorrow. And again, TBA for Gamecock starters tomorrow and Saturday. It's going to depend greatly upon how well Ty Good does tonight and what pitchers need to be used for South Carolina.
Yep.
But you hate to put that, excuse me, that much on Ty, but he needs a long outing.
Well, that's the thing. If you want to be able to advance at any point in postseason baseball, you got to be able to rely on a pitcher to give you 5 innings at least to get you deep into a game where you don't have to rely on your bullpen. Like, it's a lot of pressure, but that's what you come to South Carolina for, quite frankly. That's why if you're Ty, you make that transfer, is to be able to get in a position like this to help your team win games that are supposed to get you closer to Omaha in the grand scheme of things. And tonight's one of those nights. This is his biggest start of the year, and this is a new role for him for this season, not for his career, but this season. He's pitched so much out of the pen, but he's going to have to give you a whole lot tonight if you want to have a chance at winning this game.
Cut 16 on our list, please, Elijah. This is Tennessee's Tony Vitello, who, by the way, Vince Ferrara said has become a rock star in Knoxville the last 3 years. Duh.
Yeah, they love him.
For a school that really was like, oh, baseball season. Well, that's cool. Todd Helton's still here?
I will go to Omaha one every 15 years.
Yeah.
And not win anything there.
But here's Tony Vitello on how big this series is for his ball club.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Everybody says you want to get hot at the right time, but some of the teams that have been labeled hot, they didn't even start till it didn't go so well at the end or in Hoover, So I just think each time we want to put on the uniform, we want to compete and do well. And then you do want to look for reasons. Kind of the Michael Jordan thing is like, you kind of always searching for motivation. This is our place. We come to work every day. We love playing here. Now that the weather's been warm, the crowds are getting better and better. So there's a lot of things wrapped into why you should appreciate the opportunity on Thursday night. And you could even throw into that piggy bank. Yeah, tonight was a bounce back win after Sunday, but it was a non-conference game. Thursday's an opportunity to get back after a conference game, whereas the last one was very frustrating. So I think the easiest and best thing to do for staff and players is hone it into Thursday. School's out as of Thursday. There's another one for you. So there's a lot of reasons to come to the park with some energy, be grateful, and make sure you compete your butt off. And you're doing all those things because you do want to win that game. And then after that game's over, we'll assess what's going on with day 2, which is Friday this weekend.
I was always grateful when school was out.
Oh, yeah, for summer.
Yeah, or whenever. Friday.
Whenever, yeah.
Christmas break.
Snow days,
Snow day. And listen, in Columbia,
I was going to say,
there are 8 flakes in the air. Oh, my God, school's out.
I was like, what necessitates a snow day here? Yeah. Those were the best, man. The unplanned ones. Yeah. Favorite snow day of all time. I got a snow day when the Saints won the Super Bowl as a high schooler. It was the best night of my life. Got to stay up. Ruled.
Might be more than 8 flakes, but not much more. 20?
20? Okay. It's like it's Bigfoot. It has to be somewhat spotted by somebody. Yes. Not sure if that's even real snow, but if it's spotted.
Is that snow? Yeah. Panic. PGA Championship is well underway in Louisville at Valhalla. Xander Schauffele, a course record 9 under today. And that also ties a low round for him in a major, a record-setting 9 under. So a big deal for Xander. Now can he go win his first major? Just one day in the books. Tony Finau, Sahith Theegala finished at -6. Rory McIlroy, Robert McIntyre, a Northern Irishman, and a Scot at 5 under. Brooks Koepka and Taylor Moore amongst a group at 4 under par. Martin Keimer is at 3 under par. So is Victor Hovland and Cam Smith. They're finished for the day. Max Homa is at 3. Bryson DeChambeau is at 3 under par. Tiger Woods finished 1 over on the day. Still a lot of guys out on the golf course. Coach Bill McDonald will be with Elijah and me tomorrow afternoon to give us his take on what's going on at the PGA Championship. Columbia's Dustin Johnson, by the way, finished today at +2. So DJ will have some work to do tomorrow. If Xander continues that kind of play and some of the guys around him, DJ will have a difficult time making the cut. So he'll need a big day tomorrow. A novel concept was announced today, Elijah, and I kid because I care, because North Carolina and Wake Forest have done this. Today, North Carolina State and Virginia announced a home-and-home football series out of conference in 25 and 26.
That's dumb.
Because the ACC situation means that there's more teams to play. So, North Carolina and Wake a few years ago were like, hey, we want to keep playing each other, but the conference schedule won't allow it. So they did it, and now NC State and Virginia have done it. You're not a fan?
No.
See,
it should still count. It should still count.
Well, I mean, maybe it should, but I like it. And now you grew up in Tennessee. I know you didn't go to Tennessee, but you grew up in Tennessee, right. And it used to bother me, how much the Bama-Tennessee game was controlling everything else with Southeastern Conference football scheduling. And so I put forth the proposition that you could just play it every so often on the third Saturday of October as a non-conference game. And the pushback was something along the lines of, can't do that. Why? Because it's not a conference game. I was like, well, yeah, but it's still a game, and it's still Bama versus Tennessee on the third Saturday. Yeah, but that's supposed to be a conference game. It's not a conference game. I was like, well, but it's still a game. Yeah, but it's not a conference game.
It's got to be a conference game.
I was like, well, can't
because here's the thing.
Play the game.
You can't. Because what if it goes down to those two teams being tied for the last spot in the SEC championship game? Now that we don't have divisions, we can't use the natural tiebreaker that we had, and one team gets in over the other despite beating.
Well, now it may not matter as much because we don't have divisions. So it really, so now it, but again, when it was an interdivisional game, but had to be played every year, and then they wanted to change things up. I was like, well, just rotate it around so we can all see each other, and then just play it like every fourth year or whatever as a non-conference game. Can't. Why? Because it's a conference game.
And because it'd be dumb. Yeah. But hate that. If you're playing a team in your conference, it's got to count.
Well, that's why conference has got to figure this bleep out, man.
Add an extra game to the schedule.
Yeah.
Not that hard.
Add two.
There's your solution.
Add two.
There's your solution.
But NC State
can be done.
NC State and UVA announced a home-and-home earlier today. They'll be doing that again in 25 and 26. Speaking of some things going on in the ACC, Bubba Cunningham is under fire. He is the longtime athletics director at the University of North Carolina. The interim chancellor, Lee Roberts, has given Bubba his full endorsement, and many think that he should be in trouble because of North Carolina's athletic budget deficit. But they've been audited. I read this morning at WRAL's website. They've been audited 10 times in the last 5 years. So everybody kind of knew what was up, and it's all public record because it's a public school. I'm like, what are y'all complaining about? Some of these trustees have just really said we need to be, again, North Carolina's finally making noise. That's the thing. North Carolina's finally making noise about the ACC's problems. And
they need the money.
I know Tony Petitti can't call people in Chapel Hill directly, but you know who Tony Petitti can call? Former Big Ten commissioner Jim Delaney. You know who?
Former OVC commissioner, too.
You know where Jim Delaney went to school and played basketball? University of North Carolina.
He probably knows a few people.
He needs to make some calls. I think North Carolina's going to the Big Ten.
I could see it.
I think they're going to the Big Ten. And they just need to bring one more school with them. And I really do think it's going to be North Carolina and Virginia to the Big Ten.
A 20-team conference. Yeah. It will not be problematic at all.
But I think that's going to happen.
Whatsoever.
I genuinely do. Finally, if you are a fan of video games, then you are going to love the fact that the EA Sports college football game will be released on July the 19th. It'll cost you $70. Or if you feel like spending a little more. I don't know what the deluxe edition has. Again, I told Elijah maybe it has like lettuce and tomato on it. But it costs you, I think, $90.
I thought closer to 100.
Maybe 99.
I think you're breaking out triple digits for the deluxe version.
And then if you really want to go whole hog, you can get the bundle, which will give you the deluxe college football game and the deluxe Madden game for $150. Will you be getting the regular or the deluxe?
Just the regular. That's fine. I'm not
Again,
asking
what does
for
the
much.
deluxe have?
I'm not asking for much. Can I play a dynasty mode and can I play online with my friends? That's all I care about. That's all I need.
If I knew what deluxe had, but I was telling Kale earlier, that also means I have to go buy a new system.
Yeah.
I have a PS3. I think the last round of games they made for the PS3 was like 2017.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm in
the same boat.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I don't
do
think
it.
I'm-
I'm
I
just gonna
don't-
fork it over. I'll do it.
I don't think I'm gonna, unless Sony wants to just send one our way. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327 for all your home entertainment, home security needs, and so much more, including amazing outdoor systems. Call my very good friends at Integrated Media. More from Stuart Lake on the Gamecock baseball team coming up. AAA Heating and Air is telling their customers no, but not because they don't want you. It's because they do want you, and they want you to know that for the next 12 months, if you buy a brand new system, you'll pay no payments, have no interest. You heard me right. 12 months, no payments, no interest, plus guaranteed financing. They're just ready to make sure that you and your family stay comfortable. That's what Roy and Dana Finley, I love their new TV spot, by the way, where Dana's basically yelling at Roy. It's a funny spot. You should check it out next time you're watching local television or you're listening to us right here. But I love what they've done for me and my family. We stay nice and comfortable. You can too. Get an instant quote. See what it's going to do for you. Call AAAtoday.com is the website, or you can simply call them up on the phone, 803-677-1500. Whether it's a quick repair, a brand new system, anything in between, they're ready to help you out. Tell them Jay Phillips sent you. Stay comfortable all the time with Roy and Dana and their crew at AAA Heating and Air. 20 minutes after 5 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. It's the post-game show. Gamecock baseball coming your way in less than 1 hour's time. 6:15 airtime, 6:30 first pitch. And Stuart Lake will be on the call with Derek Scott. We'll hear from Coach Lake in just a second. But speaking of baseball, before we do, and I am doing this now, right? I'm doing this now. I'm making sure I'm because I don't want to lie.
Let's do it now.
Yell at me later.
I'm going to yell regardless.
Well, that's true. If you would like to go see the Fireflies take on the Charleston River Dogs on Saturday, right? It is Saturday. Yes, good. Making sure I get this right, too. Saturday. We have 2 family 4-packs of tickets. 2 of them. So callers 4 and 5, 803-404-6100. Callers 4 and 5 will each get 4 tickets to Saturday's game between the Fireflies and the River Dogs. So call us up. Good luck. Elijah will hook you up with those in just a second. In the meantime, we talked with Stuart Lake, and this starts off where, sir? I know we had the couple of questions off. So
yeah, this would be me asking about the arm situation or managing your best pitchers coming out of the pen or to start the game.
There it is. Let's hear what Stuart had to say.
Well, I think they've kind of showed us in a sense of going TBA, for Friday, Saturday. I'm not really sure in my mind would Garrett Gainey be available today because, that was his longest outing of the year and it just happened on Saturday. So kind of in my mind, if I were on Tennessee side setting it up, I'd be thinking, is he really going to be available tonight? I haven't asked, so I'm taking from TBA that everyone is available. But also, Elijah, it's going to be weather out here. And as I keep looking at it, I'm kind of curious to see what they may decide to do because tomorrow after about 5 p.m. out here doesn't look good. And looking at the radar, it doesn't look good until Sunday afternoon here. So it'll be curious to me on how they handle this. Now, SEC-wise, if one of your final 3 games determines the championship, we could play here on a Sunday. So this could turn into a really odd weekend in that regard.
Well, I did see there's weather in Baton Rouge, and they're moving the start time up today. So I don't know if that's a possibility tomorrow. I suppose Coach Vitello and Coach Kingston can try to decide on that. Stuart Lake is with us from Knoxville, Carolina, and Tennessee game 1. A little earlier start time than typical, 6:30. First pitch, airtime is 6:15 across the network. Stuart, Elijah and I were talking about this earlier in the week, and we spoke with Derek, and I want your take, especially as a baseball coach and analyst on this. Are there ways for South Carolina offensively to maybe be just a little bit more aggressive in looking at the charts, seeing what Tennessee does in terms of first pitch strikes, things like that, moving up in the box, just ways for this offense to take on a little bit bigger role? Or is it, for lack of a better way to ask, just too late in the season to really alter your approach that much?
Well, it would be late to change kind of who you are. You've developed it. We're a team that I thought we played really well offensively last weekend. But we're a team that strikes out, and that's a part that I do know you can address, and I know Monty and King have addressed more of trying to, if we're aggressive early in the counts, it limits you getting into those counts. The one that always gets me, and I've been open about it, I hate strikeouts looking. There is just something about them that it's almost like the dad in me. I can't let the kid walk by on a strikeout looking without saying something. I'll let you walk by on a strikeout swinging. I struck out as much as anybody playing this game because I know how hard it is. I didn't strike out looking a lot. So that was always my kind of thing with hitters is we're going to do. So those type things can be addressed. I like how at times we play small ball with this lineup, the way it's going. I mean, you think about Blake Jackson's a 3-hole hitter, had the old bunt double last week, but he's been a guy you very seldom see a guy in the middle of the order as involved in small ball as he's been. So I do feel the offense has changed a little bit from what we were seeing early in the year. It's just really the big thing going to be this weekend. Can you just minimize some of these Tennessee innings? Because they're just coming at you offensively all weekend. That's going to be the key.
And then with the batting order, too, because, I mean, like I'm all about, like you, minimization here because Tennessee's going to put the ball in play. They're going to hit home runs. They're just going to hit the ball. And that's indisputable. And we've seen 2 different, I guess, approaches to the lineup this year. One with Will Tippett in it, where the left side of your infield is it's a hard to get hits against them, right? If you're hitting the ball to third and short. with Will and Talmadge on those two positions. But then there's kind of the sacrificing a little bit of defense for offense approach, which has given them more runs this year, but a couple more errors on the corners. What approach do you think the Gamecocks take, or what approach, I guess, would you kind of look at when you're facing a team like Tennessee where you're going to have to be able to generate a ton of runs as well?
Well, I don't really think they'd had an option until we saw Will Tippett come back in the game last weekend. And once he did come back in, heck, if y'all remember, he made 2 or 3 plays at shortstop that you'd have had no idea he had a knee issue he was dealing with, and he got the breaking ball home run. So I really feel pretty good with Will at third. I've been a guy, and I know what they've been trying to do. I really like Gavin Costas at first, which probably means, obviously, we're never taking Ethan out of the lineup. Does he go back to right? Do you try to stay with Costas at third? This Tennessee team's not going to small ball you. Even just simple things. Georgia had been hit by about 105 pitches. Tennessee's only been hit by 55. So this isn't a team that's going to try to crowd the plate, try to really small ball you to death. So you might be able to get away with the, quote, offensive lineup that we've tried to do. But I'm a big Will Tippett fan at short. I hope he's feeling good. From what we saw last weekend, it looked like he could be a big factor in this stretch run.
Good stuff from Stewart. Again, he and Derek on the call coming up at 6:15 tonight. So I didn't just cut that off, did I?
No, you did not. It ended there.
Okay, I thought that was my time limit.
Right at 5 minutes.
Live radio, people.
You know what was really weird though? I mean, we were giving away those tickets, and I was on the phone with somebody, and I hear your voice asking one of the questions, and like, it's normal because sometimes we give away tickets, and you'll be talking while I'm giving away, getting information from people. And I heard my voice in the background, and I got really tripped out because I forgot we were playing that from earlier. So I started hearing my voice, and I had like a small like existential crisis as to if I had been like cloned, or if there's somebody in the studio that came in unbeknownst to me that sounds like me. It freaked me out for about 3 seconds before realizing, oh,
Cale was throwing his voice.
That's right. Now he's been listening to me enough to where he's able to sample it like a really good like AI machine or whatever, and be able to just like recreate me. That would have been wild. But it freaked me out. I'm not going to lie. I totally forgot we were playing Stewart for a second while on the phone.
Speaking of giving away tickets, congratulations to Scott and to Brian. Thank you, boys.
That's right.
Enjoy it.
When Brian first told me his name, I thought he said Ryan Day, and I was like, wait a minute.
Wait,
like,
what?
Ohio State's coach is wanting to come watch Fireflies?
Maybe he's down here on a recruiting visit.
I was going to be really concerned if he made all that money and he's still calling in to try to win tickets.
Hey, you may as well try.
That's true. When you're a competitor, I think you become that type of competitor. You just want to win anything.
I think if Coach Day were coming to a Fireflies game, he'd rent a box, don't you?
Oh, yeah. You could probably buy the box permanently.
You know what I like when I go to Firefly games, and I don't mean this to sound like but they have those the high tops out in the outfield.
Yeah. That area out there?
Yeah. I really like those. I mean, nothing against regular seats, but we sat there one night. We were invited to something, and I was like, man, I want to do this more out there. Those are kind of, and they have a lot of them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of cool. You know,
outfield seating's the way to go.
Maybe more places should do that. There's a little bit of that at Carolina, a little, yeah. Atlanta has that whole section in right field now of like, is
it still the
premium
Coors,
seating,
the Coors Light
Chop House
or Chop House. That's right.
Yeah,
area. Looks nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
The only Braves games I've been to in that park have been, either like down the first or third baseline.
Yep. I prefer third baseline. And when I don't know why, when I go to Braves games, I prefer third baseline. I don't know why. I can't give you a good answer as to why. Cale earlier asked me why I hate the Mets.
Oh, that's easy.
Because they're the Mets. It drives Heath, like Heath and Heath's wife and I are big Braves fans, and we both hate the Mets. And he would ask, like, why do you hate the Mets? And Mandy and I are like, because they're the Mets. And that drives Heath nuts. He needs more logic than that. Drive around the SEC coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A couple accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways. We'll go ahead and start with a pretty big one. An accident has the right lane completely blocked on 26 eastbound. That's over near the Bush River Road exit 108A. So traffic is almost at a standstill there right now. Keeping it here in the county on I-20 eastbound at Broad River Road and exit 65, there's an accident that's causing a minor delay, as well as one on 20 westbound. That one's going to be just after the Fairfield Road exit 70. We also have one on Lincoln Street near Green Street, one on US 378 near Atlas Road, and lastly, we have only one accident in Lexington County. That's on Old Chapin Road at Old Cherokee Road.
And it is Drive Around the SEC time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. The final weekend of regular season baseball in the Southeastern Conference. The tournament will begin in Hoover on Tuesday morning, I believe. I think they started at like 11 o'clock. It's really early. Don't know when the Gamecocks will play yet because it all depends on the weekend, and that's where we are right now. Of course, Carolina at Tennessee tonight. Ty Good starting for the Gamecocks. He'll go up against Chris Stamos of Tennessee. Both are seniors. Again, Ty Good 5-1 with a 3.21. Stamos 3-0 with a 3.33. Again, 6:30 start time. But the other games this weekend, and Elijah, again, not telling you who to pull for.
Even though I can.
Well,
I
you
can't
can.
tell you.
You can.
If you like to be told.
Yeah. We've got Florida at Georgia, Vanderbilt at Kentucky, Alabama at Auburn, Ole Miss at LSU, Missouri at Mississippi State, Arkansas visits Texas A&M. My opinion, sir, the biggest series of the weekend is Ole Miss at LSU because the loser of the series may be eliminated from tournament contention. May.
They may take your resume and light it on fire in the committee room.
The most important series in terms of one team needing it is Florida visiting Georgia. It's most important for Florida, even if the biggest series, because it's Georgia. The reason I say the biggest series is LSU Ole Miss is because of what it means to both. Georgia, again, I think Georgia might even already be a top 8. Winning the Florida series would secure that, in my opinion, for the Bulldogs. But if Florida doesn't win this series, they're not going to the tournament. But the most important one for Carolina fans.
The most important one for Carolina fans, I would still say, is probably the Vanderbilt one because you need them in the top 25 in the RPI. You need to be able to gain 3 quad 1 wins in a weekend where you're going to struggle to get a quad 1 win at all. All 3 games against Tennessee, if you were to play all 3, weather permitting, are going to be very important for your chances to be able to stack quad 1 wins. The easiest way to do that will just to have Vanderbilt do something they haven't done all year and win on the road against Kentucky and get those back for you. But I think you should also be invested in Georgia and Florida. You need the Georgia sweep to start looking a lot better. Yes, Florida losing does kind of diminish your best road series win, but I think it might be more favorable to have the biggest blemish in the last couple of weeks.
I was going to ask how you look at that because I don't disagree with you, but I'll play devil's advocate and say you really want Florida to win that series because, again, it does kind of prop up what you did. And it even though Florida's RPI isn't great, those already count as quad 1 wins.
Yep.
Because you did it on the road.
They can't fall too far.
Yeah. So, it can enhance a little bit with your overall RPI just because if Florida were to go to Georgia and win a series, then everything goes up a little bit, including what it does for you. But at the same time, you're right. It's almost like, well, At least you got beat by the hottest team in America because
That is still winning every game they play.
So I don't know where the rub is on that one. It's almost 6 of one, half dozen of another. I don't know. Again, they can't take your quad one Florida victories from you.
Nope.
You can get the quad ones back if Vandy does well. So,
Yes.
Again, Bama at Auburn has some importance because Alabama is trying to get themselves into the hosting conversation. Arkansas at A&M, as Elijah said, basically all that is the loser's going to fall out of the top 4.
Darn.
So that's pretty much that. And Missouri at Mississippi State. I think State's done enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to win at least a game there, so they'll have a 500. They're at 15-12 right now. They might sweep that series.
You would like for Missouri to steal 1 or 2, so you could, because they're ahead of you in RPI and they're ahead of you in terms of seeding for the NCAA tournament. If we were to end this bad boy right now,
Yeah.
So
Carolina fans should be pulling for Missouri to win that series.
Yeah, because the Mississippi State's leapfroggable.
Are you pulling? And then I suppose in that same vein, you're pulling for Auburn to beat Alabama.
Correct. Don't get your hopes up. But
no.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean those are the
certainly do not get your hopes up.
Those are the 2 last place teams.
They will not be seeing heaven, and by heaven I mean Hoover, Alabama.
I just look at that Vandy series and wonder what buttons Tim Corbin can push. And I don't know if there's any buttons left. You know that you shut out Tennessee the other day. I think is that the only time Tennessee's been shut out?
Yep.
You've got to find a way to channel that. And listen, Carolina shut out Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. Doable.
And you beat Kentucky in another game. I mean, Kentucky's sitting on 20 wins. I guess that's what makes some of this last 3 weeks so maddening, I think, for Carolina baseball fans is, Kentucky's now the number 1 team in the RPI, and you beat them 2 out of 3, and you shut them out. You run ruled them.
So it makes it incredibly frustrating.
Yeah. And then from there, it's just like, kind of a thud.
You got the series at Missouri, which you needed to win the series.
Yeah.
And then it's just, really, I think it's just this past weekend.
Yeah, and I think it's how Saturday. If you would, I don't know this. And it's too late now. It's all the what ifs. But let's say instead of losing, what was it, 14-6,
mm-hmm.
if you lose 7-6, it doesn't really matter, does it?
No. Well, honestly, I do think
it doesn't matter because you lost. But
the way you lost the last one, I think psychologically.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like you got curb stomped.
You could
in the last 2 innings.
You could have gotten run rolled in the last 2 innings alone.
Yeah. I mean, they scored 10 unanswered on you. I just think the way the series ended, but a sweep's a sweep.
Yeah.
So I kind of take that back now. I don't know if it has as much, losing by 1 or losing by 8 doesn't really matter. And I just don't like Florida's chances of being able to pitch well enough in Athens.
You could win the Caglione start. Maybe.
Like a lot of ballparks, Foley Field is its own little launching pad, man. So reasons to think that Georgia's hot streak continues.
And that they've been hitting well enough to where.
Maybe Sully will just start doing nothing but throwing at Georgia guys the whole time. Just hit them. Scare the life out of them so they don't want to swing.
Discourage them from coming up.
Georgia got a run on no hits and no walks. What happened? Yeah, 4 straight HBPs.
And then Georgia left the stadium. They just left. Yeah. They refused to play.
Walk out. We'll see. Baseball America currently has the Gamecocks as the number 3 seed in the Santa Barbara Regional. D1 Baseball has them as the number 2 seed in a potential Clemson Regional, with Chad Holbrook's Charleston Cougars also part of that. That's the one Elijah's pulling for.
I want that so
Did we put up our flash poll?
We did.
Oh, what do we got?
We've got 96 votes on it.
Okay. Hold it.
Yeah.
Because I want to come back to that.
Okay. We'll put a pin in it.
Come back to that. Ask the question.
Okay. The question is, if you're a Gamecock fan, which regional would you rather see them in? There's Group 1, which is Baseball Americas, which is hosted by UC Santa Barbara, with Arizona as the 2 seed, U the 3, Fresno State the 4.
Okay.
Or Group 2, which is D1 Baseball's projection, which has Clemson hosting, U the 2, College of Charleston the 3 seed, and Wright State the 4.
Okay. 1075 The Game on the Twitter. Correct. Answer it. I'm going to retweet it real quick here, too. Let's get some updated results. We'll do that for you as the postgame show continues. 12 minutes in front of 6 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Final few minutes of the postgame show. And again, we're less than a half hour away from Carolina baseball. Airtime of 6:15. Derek Scott, Stuart Lake on the call. 6:30 first pitch from Lindsey Nelson Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee. Before we get to the poll question with Cale here, I give advice to the kids from time to time. Cale's still in college, so that's a kid.
You are. You're a kid until you're like 24.
Yeah. This is something not to do, and I'll explain here. This is from Little Rock, Arkansas. 33-year-old Joel Villeda was arrested on Sunday, charged with first offense operating while under the influence, first offense possession of a controlled substance. Also arrested for providing false identification, having an open container of alcohol, unlawful use of a license or non-operator's ID card, and no valid driver's license. He was in a lot of trouble. He was wearing sunglasses at night, and he's not Corey Hart. It was not
even baseball player Corey Hart.
According to the police report, once the officer asked him to remove his sunglasses, he noticed that his eyes were rather bloodshot and that they smelled alcohol and potentially other things. I won't go into all the great detail. They did also have a six-pack of Corona with one open container on the center console. So dude's just like, just what the hell? I'll just drink the Corona while I'm...
This guy's going full Bob Huggins.
Sure. He was taken to the sheriff's office, and they asked him for his ID, and he did provide one. Now, again, he's from Little Rock, okay? Provided them a Minnesota driver's license, did Mr. Villeda.
No red flags.
It was determined to be false, according to this report, because it included listing him as 8 feet tall. Mr. Villeda is
but
apparently...
he's not.
Yeah, no, he's only 5'8".
Close.
Yeah.
That's surely that could just be a small misunderstanding.
Yeah. Look, by the way, so he provided ultimately his real name and his real date of birth and his real height, I guess. They maybe figured that out on their own.
Maybe.
It was also determined that he was actually wanted on a warrant for failure to appear from 2017 for another DUI.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so be careful there. But here's the thing. So, Cale and others like you, if you're getting a fake ID, at least put that you're 7 feet tall. It's a lot more realistic.
Exactly.
No one's 8 feet tall.
See, I never had a fake ID before turning 21, but I did, however, have a friend who we did share some very similar facial features.
Right.
We did look a lot alike.
Yeah.
And he turned 21 6 months before I did. And I would use his paper ID, and it worked at any gas station I went to. Statute limitations are over.
How old are you? Paper ID? What is this, the 50s?
Oh, you get the temporary one. You get the temporary for
They don't do that here, man.
Yeah, in Tennessee they do.
Wow, y'all are really trusting in Tennessee.
Here's the thing.
Paper.
Yeah. You get the paper one before you get the real one. You get a temporary.
Wow.
And it's a paper one, and it's real, and that's got the barcode on the back, and it scans.
Yeah, sure.
But the only issue here with me and my friend is that he was 5'6". I am not 5'6".
No, you're like the other. You flip the numerals.
Exactly. Yes. Closer to that.
Yes.
So, but never got called out. That was all. All anyone had to do was look and say, "Oh, you grew a lot from the time this was issued 2 months ago."
I mean, if you're getting a fake ID and it says 8 feet tall, A, did you look at it? And B, dude, you're being jobbed right there. I mean, what are you doing?
Why would your name be McLovin? You sound like an Irish R&B singer.
So anyway, again, if you're going to falsify your height on an already false identification card, again,
Let's shoot for accuracy.
7 feet tall. Yeah, again, something more realistic.
What are you, the NBA draft combine? Come on.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, Elijah has our flash poll question done during the show today.
That's
what
right.
you got?
So far, we did go ahead and lay out, the two groupings in the regional that South Carolina's been projected to be in. Group 1 being UC Santa Barbara hosting, Arizona the 2 seed, U the 3, and Fresno State the 4. Or Group 2, which is D1 baseballs, where Clemson hosts, you are the 2 seed, College of Charleston is the 3 seed, and Wright State is the 4. With 112 votes, 59.8% of the votes would rather be in Clemson's regional. They would like to see the Palmetto series continue in the postseason, along with the caveat of playing Chad Holbrook to start, and then only 40% of the vote is going to playing in the regional.
Do you think?
Santa Barbara.
Do you think that? And I just saw it tick up again to 60-40 Group 2. You think they're being honest with themselves? That they want to? They really do want to go to Clemson and play Coach Holbrook in Charleston?
I think so.
Yeah,
it's a competitor in them. I would love to see that. That'd be awesome.
It'd be a hell of a story.
It'd be a remarkable story.
Yeah.
I think some people would like to see that story. If you're going to go out at a game that you can possibly attend, because I can't imagine a lot of Gamecock fans would be able to just go to Santa Barbara on a whim.
Well, and I think no, you're not going to Santa Barbara. I mean, a couple might, but
not the majority.
I think the biggest appeal here is the opportunity to beat Clemson at Doug Kingsmore and knock them out of the tournament.
I think because that, no matter what would happen in the Super Regional, you can get run ruled in both games. I think if you knock Clemson out of the regional at their place, the season, like you look back on this season kind of fondly. You will always have that.
Let me go back to the D1 projection if I have time here before our clock runs out on me. Who was Clemson paired with? Do you remember?
So Clemson was paired with Indiana State.
Okay.
The Terre Haute region. With Arizona as the two.
Illinois, Bowling Green. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right, the Falcons.
Yeah. Again, so much of this is still fluid. So, and South Carolina, listen, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about game 1. And Aaron Fitt's going to join us tomorrow from D1 Baseball, plus highlights and post-game comments. But there's a chance. It's very slim. But you need to get it done. I would start by doing it tonight to be perfect. Get your best pitchers on the hill tonight. Go get the win.
Take care of business.
We're about 20 minutes away from it. Kale, thanks for coming by, buddy. For Elijah, I'm Jay. We'll see y'all tomorrow.